Today I'll be talking about the overcoming pitfalls of the kids' apps. And I've chosen this topic not just because I'm in the industry and I care about the apps and the games and the kids' games. I've also chosen this topic because I'm a mom, and I've been selecting and playing kids' games for over 6 years now. So to begin with, I would like to talk about the trends on the market right now, on the kids' market. And we've noticed in Apple we actually monetize quite a few kids' apps. And together we've written an ebook that is available for download, and I will share the link with you later. But we've noticed that after analyzing all of the apps that we're working with, we've noticed that the premium apps are no longer leading the pack of the kids' apps. And the free apps actually taking the majority of the market, and rightfully so, since there is such a big and rich variety of games on the market. It's hard to compete, basically, if you make parents pay for the market. With such large variety, the quality of the apps becoming better and better. It's becoming very popular to partner up with the brands such as books and songs and TV shows. And if the parents trust the brand, they will trust the app, and the chances of paying for a certain app is increasing. The monetization model, the new monetization model is subscription model. That is an interesting model, and specifically for the kids' apps, and I will go into it a little bit later. The challenges that kids' apps face right now are there on the screen, and I will briefly go over all of them, but you will be able to read more on such insights from the book. I will start with marketing. As one of our publishers analyzed his user acquisition, he realized that only about a fifth part of all of the users come from the paid marketing. He recommends to focus on App Store optimization and sticking to international rating systems in order to be featured or even listed in kids' apps department of the App Store. In Google Play, designed for families apps, and App Store kids' apps. There are a few tips that are specific for this category. I would recommend to focus on all of the tools that you have in your toolbox from your previous projects, but specifically for the kids' apps, you can't just promote your apps to the target audience. You have to promote the app also and make it appealing also to the parents. Parents are normally decision makers of who's downloading the app and who analyzing the app if this is appropriate for the kid. So you have to make it appealing for two very different age groups. Also, if you don't have a large experience with kids' apps, analyzing age groups becomes a little bit tough, because you may think that you're developing an app for a 10-year-olds that is mathematical or educational or appealing or should be appealing to 10 to 12 years old, but in reality you realize after testing that not at all of your users are that age group, and that age group is more focused on shooter games and other horror games, which is interesting. So you should consider brand partnerships. As I said, this becomes more of a trend recently, and think outside the box in terms of promoting your apps. Next, I'm moving on to the monetization. So although the kids' apps take quite a small sliver of the market, it's still a huge revenue potential to be made. In 2017, kids' apps alone made $2.2 billion in revenue. Majority of this revenue came from the ads, and on the graph you can see the global ad spending on mobile in recent years, plus the projections. So a large percentage of this will go towards the advertising on kids' apps. So I'm going to go over the in-app advertisement for the kids' apps. There are a few restrictions that should be taken into the attention, but the benefits of the advertisement in the kids' apps is huge. In fact, majority of the revenue that is made on kids' apps is made from the ads. The ads behave also differently in kids' apps, which is interesting. Kids don't mind ads at all. They like it, in fact. My son, for example, just loves the ads. This is a stream of new information for him. This is a discovery channel for him. He wants to download certain apps, certain games, and he loves playable formats. So he likes to play the games within the games. The downfalls of the advertisement is that parents do mind ads. So parents don't like when the kids spend time on watching an ad rather than when they should be playing an educational game, for example. Also, you have to keep the video ads limited. So you cannot use unskippable video ad. You only have to use skippable video ad or rewarded video. And there are also limited ad partners that are compliant with restrictions and laws. I will go over it later. So as I said, ads behave differently on the kids' apps, and these 4 formats are the most effective on the kids' apps. Normally, what we experience from all of the apps collectively, rewarded video is the best format. It pays the highest eCPM, it performs great because people don't mind it, but in kids' apps, it's not the case. In kids' apps, here's the eCPMs that come from different formats. This data is taken from Apodil Kids apps that in 2017, and in fact, the skippable video ad, video interstitial, brought the majority of the revenue for the kids apps. And the interstitial is the 2nd place, and the rewarded video only goes on the 3rd place, which is very specific and interesting. Now, I'm going to go over in-app purchases. It's a very popular model among all of the gamers and among all of the other applications. But in the kids' apps, it may or may not be a good idea, and you should be deciding for yourself. So the benefits of in-app purchases are very obvious. So it's an additional revenue stream. It's low app install barriers, which means that kid won't decide not to download an app if it has in-app purchases. He will download it either way. And kids normally are not as advanced and don't have as many tools as adults do to progress in the game, and in-app purchases actually help them to progress. But the pitfalls or downsides of in-app purchases include that parents don't really like them. In-app purchases can be accidental, or they can just be too frequent. And if my banking account balance getting lower, I probably will delete the app from my son's iPad. Also, parents, when they are parents, a decision maker of which app to install, the install rate for the applications with in-app purchases for the kids' apps are a lot lower than for those that are free and don't have in-app purchases, or for those that are paid and don't have in-app purchases. This is the least popular model for kids' apps, what we've noticed. Next model, as I said, the subscription model. So in contrary with in-app purchase, this is also a small amount of money that is being taken out of banking account every month, but it's more predictable. So parents actually know each month how much they're going to pay for a certain app to keep their kids engaged, and this is a great model. It also boosts your retention rate, your LTV, and users stay with the games for longer period of time. But the downsides of this model includes that it's hard to shift. So if you at some point decide that you no longer want to do the subscription model and you want to do something different in the purchase, ads, premium, fully premium game, then it's difficult to shift without losing a majority of your users. Users tend to leave if the model of subscription is changed. And again, paid apps. So finally, the paid apps. Fun fact, parents are more open to spend more money on paid apps than for kids than on their own. So statistically, a parent or adult who will not spend more than 99 cents for a game to play for themselves will spend more than $3 on the kids' apps for their kids. So it can be a great model. However, it has to be maintained really well, and it has to be very high quality content, because if you make your users spend money, or the parents of users to spend money, then they will expect a certain return, a certain quality of return. Another downside of this includes that the share of the paid apps actually is decreasing, and with years, as you see in the graph, it's been smaller and smaller, and it probably will continue to fall. So the least favorite subject of all of the developers of kids apps is the restriction. The first is our favorite, COPPA compliance, that we all have to know. Contrary to common misconception, COPPA compliance, COPPA doesn't mean the content of an app or an ad. It actually puts the restrictions on the data that is being collected from the user. It also restricts the communications. So there are no, the games specifically for kids are not allowed to have any inside communications, any chats, and also they are limited in the push notifications. So external communications are also restricted. According to COPPA, a game or an app for a child has to collect the permission from a parent to use a certain feature of the app. So if you don't comply with COPPA laws, it doesn't necessarily mean that your app is going to get banned and that would be the end of it. The consequences of not complying to COPPA include the loss of reputation, obviously, also the large large fees and lawsuits. So if you're going to go to the market, you really should learn your rights and what you should be compliant to. If you're using the advertisement in your app, you have to make sure that ad networks are also COPPA compliant. So not only app is collecting the data from the users, but advertisement networks also collect the data in order to feature certain ads on the device. So these networks are compliant with the COPPA laws, and if you're using mediation instead of actually direct networks, the mediation will only work with these networks to make sure that they are COPPA compliant as well. And last but not least, the rating systems. So these are the three most common international rating systems that are very important. You can learn more about them on the links that are provided on the screen. Why rating systems are important? They actually are not necessary to be in the business. But if you do adhere to these rating systems, you are eligible for programs of Google Play designed for families applications and for App Store kids apps. So it automatically puts you in the right category and automatically boosts or increases the organic traffic growth for you, and the chances of the successful kids app is a lot higher. So as I promised to share the link for the ebook that we've written is on the screen right there. It's bit.ly App Deal for Kids. You're welcome to take a look, download, read more, and learn more. There are a lot more information that I covered as we gathered it from all the apps that we're working with. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Natalie. And I think we have some time for questions if you're okay with that. And if you don't mind, I think I have the first question. And that is, so if a developer is designing a game or an app specifically for a child, of course it's very clear about the compliance that they need to do. But what about apps or games that are more geared toward a family, so anywhere from the parents to a child? Is there any way to make sure that the ads being displayed to a child are COPPA compliant?
So if the app is not targeted towards the kids specifically, it doesn't have to be marked as a kids app. And if it's not marked as a kids app within the mediation or ad network, it's not necessarily that the appropriate age ads will be shown. So if this is a family application of family game, I would recommend to actually include, to specify that this is a kids apps in case there are any violent or any kind of other ads that have been shown, or the data that is collected, because it can result in all of the consequences that I showed in the previous screen.
Great, thank you. I guess for a kids app developer, when choosing who to work with to monetize with advertising, how do we choose? Because I know there's some specific ad networks for kids, and then you also listed your partners up there that are, much larger, and they're focused on all sorts of users.
So if I understood the question correctly, there are not a lot of business for specifically kids networks. So networks tend to be general and have a certain level of ads that are COPPA compliant, as I shared. So all of the ad networks that I shared before, they are not specifically towards the kids. They're very general. They are working in any of the games or apps that you have. But if you market, so you just simply mark your app as a kids app in order for it to collect less data or to place appropriate ads. As we've noticed, it's too much of an effort and too much of time and not enough profit from developing a very specific network that is only kids appropriate. Although there was a demand, although there was a demand for the ads to be met, the restrictions are too high for the network to survive, so it simply won't survive. So the networks tend to combine their efforts.
Sorry. When you talk about kids, how kids like...
Who's that?
Oh, it's me right over
okay.
here. Yeah. When you talk about how, some kids like eggs and discoverability and overall the presentation about kids, do you have a specific age range in mind or an age group, when it comes to either preschool kids or, preteens, et cetera?
Yeah, so normally there are no specific restrictions as far as I know, but normally it is up to you what is the age that you're going to be targeting your app towards. App stores and Google Play Store actually decides the recommended age towards certain apps, and it will be specified at the app description or game description, if it's of course compliant with the rating, the international rating. But I don't know the cutoff kids' age, so we will have to look into it. That's a good question.
If parents don't like
advertisement.
Yeah, ads. Well, yeah, ads or the in-app purchases, but and yet the market seems to be moving away from premium purchased apps. Mm-hmm. So, why? How do you explain that disparity?
Sure. So in-app purchases, as I said, they a lot of times they can be accidental and they can be blocked by the parents because of they can be accidental. The kid, if it's unsupervised play, the kid can not be able to make the in-app purchase. So this is a least recommended system. But the good thing about the ads that although parents mind them, they don't mind them as much as kids. Well, kids actually don't mind them at all. And normally parents are not included fully when a kid is playing the game. So a kid is playing for a certain period of time, and a parent normally supervises in the beginning to make sure that the app is appropriate for the age, and the ads are showing the appropriate ads are showing. And that the supervision normally ends there. So that's why the advertisement model tends to be the most profitable for the kids apps, because kids actually like it. Kids prefer ads. They like, this is an additional boost of their knowledge about the world and about the apps out there. So this is the...
That's a great question. I think way too often we in the industry are really in the trenches of, how do we improve our KPI for monetization, user growth. But of course we need to really be in tune with the feedback from families, from parents, from kids. And at the end of the day, it's like, if we're developing an app, how do we even survive? And so we're always testing different models to monetize and keep the doors open. And it just seems like, definitely the trend is going toward, as you were mentioning earlier, subscription, but also finding better ways to do advertising in a safe way.
Yeah, the subscription model is really great for the reasons I described earlier. But if you do shift towards the paid app, You should also probably include the free version, just so you don't miss out on a large chunk of the revenue coming in, because parents normally don't like to pay something that their kid may or may not enjoy. So I tend not to buy anything straight away. I tend to download the free version, and then when my kid plays the first level of an alphabet game or something, or a reading app, then I will buy an expansion pack, and I will spend money on that.
Can you talk a little bit about navigating that line between a strictly kids app, like for under 13, versus a mixed audience where it may not be in the kids category, but has a lot of kid users, like say like a Minecraft or a Pokemon Go?
Sure.
And how to make those decisions?
Sure. So as I said, networks always collect data, and normally they collect data that is specific for the apps that are being downloaded on the phone and or on a tablet or something, and the appropriate ads will be shown, for example. So the user behavior normally, the user preferences normally are collected from all of the apps that are being installed from the advertisements before. And I've noticed that even if you play, my son and I play the same game, and I play it on my phone and he plays it on his tablet, different quality of ads are being shown. So the networks collect data from the tablet, and it sees that it's the child, it belongs to a child, so it will only show the age-appropriate advertisements. But when I play the same game, same publisher and everything, I play it on my phone, there are a lot of bank, like apps installed, like Uber and stuff like that. So I tend to have more adult advertisements. So all of this is not restricted, but ad networks prefer to show an ad that has the highest rate of conversion. So they will actually show the app that is appropriate.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, so it shows there's an economic incentive also to make sure that the correct ads are being shown to the correct users, because then you have a higher conversion rate. So if you're showing a game for some sort of civilization builder to a kid, it's not going to monetize as well for the publisher.
Exactly.
So you want to make the effort to distinguish. That's great. Okay, yeah, thank you, Natalie, very much.
Thank you.
Very informative.